Allow me to formally introduce you to the first expansion of the Travis RC race program, RC10B7. So I first want to start talking about why we decided to get into 10 scale racing. There are really two reasons. One being that we got into 8 scale pretty late in the season. We were only able to make one race, and I didn't want the racing to stop, so this will allow me to do indoor carpet racing through the winter. The second reason is kind of an expansion of the first reason, but it will allow me to make more content for you guys, my awesome subscribers, my awesome viewers, and I want to be able to help give back to the community a little bit for the people that are just like me in getting started in RC racing. So in talking about why we decided to get into 10 scale racing, I want to talk a little bit about the class that we ended up choosing and why we chose the car that we did. So first things first, I knew I was going to get a buggy simply just because that seems to be the more popular vehicle type in the 10 scale world. So then once I figured out I was going buggy, I needed to figure out, do I want to go 4-wheel drive or 2-wheel drive? And we went with 2-wheel drive. One, because it's the most popular class, and two, because it is the easiest class as far as being easier to drive. The barrier to entry is a little bit lower in terms of the price and how easy they are to build and maintain and all that. There's less diffs, there's less moving parts, and overall just almost everything about 2-wheel drive seems to be easier than 4-wheel drive. So once we decided to go 2-wheel drive, we needed to figure out what kind of motor did we want to put in here. I pretty quickly ruled out that we were going to do a mod class that's way more advanced and way quicker than what I can do, especially to start off with. So then that kind of left us with the stock classes. So did we want to go a 21.5 turn motor, or did we want to go a 17.5 turn motor? So I decided to go a 17.5 stock class, and I asked my buddy Dustin, who I'll bring up a little bit later here a couple times throughout this video. He saw the vlog that we did where we did our first 8-scale race, and he said, "You did a pretty good job handling the 8-scale buggy. You'll probably be just fine with a 17.5. So the class we ended up with is 2-wheel drive buggy, 17.5 stock. And for a little bit until we can get our bearings, we're going to be running the intermediate or more novice classes with this. And we landed on an RC10B7 for really the same reasons that we ended up with a Techno, or any reason I would advise somebody to choose a particular car. Part support and setup support. So part support being your local hobby shops. What do they carry? Are they going to have parts for an RC10B7? Are they going to carry more parts for an X-ray car? I would venture to say that in the US, 10 scale is kind of ruled by Associated more than any other brands. So any hobby shop you go to and any racetrack you go to, you're going to find guys that are going to be able to help you out. If you don't carry a part that maybe you can get a part from them, they're going to give you some tips on setting the car up and give you any help that you need with that sort of stuff. So ultimately, that's why we landed on an Associated RC10B7. It is the newest release. It's been out for probably a little bit more than a year. So a lot of people kind of have this car figured out, and we can get a lot of good advice, and we already have gotten great advice with this car. So now that I covered the whys and the hows briefly, let's start to talk about the car. And before I get into what we put in the car, the electronics, all the extra stuff, I want to talk about the aesthetics of this car really quick. We do have a custom chassis protector from Visid Designs. We have a custom painted J Concepts S15 body, custom painted by DRC Graphics. You can look them up on Facebook. That's graphics with an X. And last but not least, I have to mention Suction Stickers. Guys, Suction Stickers is a great company that makes decals for the RC application. You can let them know what brands you want. You can let them know in what colors, and you can even let them know if you want it for 10 scale or 8 scale, and they can size them appropriately. You can even send them custom designs and custom images like they did with our logos on here. And they don't just stop at decal sheets. They made us a custom wrap for our NB4 Plus transmitter, and even for our Gens Ace battery charger. They even made us this awesome custom pit mat with our artwork. If you guys want to make your car and your pit setup stand out, make sure you look up Suction Stickers. You can only find them on Facebook. Send them a message, place your order, and make sure you tell them that Travis RC sent you. So before I get too deep into the car here, I do want to preface this with, I did do this based off of a setup sheet that was sent to us by our buddy Dustin. Dustin is a factory team driver for Associated, Exalt, and probably some others. He's a great RC racer. He's also a great monster truck driver. Dustin does have a YouTube channel that I'm going to link down below for you to check out. I know he plans to do more stuff on his channel and try to grow that and get involved with some RC stuff on there as well, so we're definitely going to do some collaborations in the future. But with that being said, we did try to build this based on a setup sheet that Dustin sent us, and if you're newer to building kits, don't build off of a setup sheet. But I decided to use the setup sheet that Dustin sent us, A, because I know Dustin's not going to steer us wrong, and B, I wanted the extra challenge of building a kit with a setup sheet with the minimal kit building experience to begin with. But if you're like me, where you're newer to building kits, don't do this. Just build according to the kit setup in the manual. It's going to make your life a lot easier, I promise. So for starters here, as far as things that are not stock that we put on the car right away, we do have carbon front and rear arms. We did have to put the plastic ones back on in the rear. I'll go over that in a little bit. We also have the carbon top plate and the carbon front Ballstud mounts. And then we also have the factory team aluminum steering rack and bell crank system. Now, all those parts I just mentioned are to reduce flex on a high traction surface, such as carpet like we have. You don't want a lot of flex characteristic in the car. You want to keep the car planted. You want to keep it straight and narrow. And that's the purpose of those parts, really. So we'll pop the lid off here. And I got to say, 8 scale compared to 10 scale, it's a minor thing, but I just really love how it's just Velcro on the side rails. No body pins, no body posts, nothing like that. So for the electronics, starting up front with our steering servo, we are running a Nitro Pro KS1 Pro low profile servo. We went Nitro Pro because we have that in the 8 scale buggy. There's a lot of brands that make good servos like ProTech and Savox and all them, but you really can't beat the guarantee and the warranty that Nitro Pro puts on their servos. It's super fast, super responsive, really happy with it. We have a Fly Sky receiver to go with our NB4 Plus transmitter, nothing special. For the speed control, we are running a Coyote Crest X Evo ESC. We went the Coyote because we have the Crest 8 in the 8 scale. Really love it, even though we have minimal time with it so far, but the tuning and everything is super simple and straightforward, and there's a lot of good reviews about this newer ESC company. We went with the Evo instead of the standard Crest X simply because AMain didn't have the standard Crest X in stock at the time of ordering the ESC, and it was only like $30 more for the Evo that just came out. It's probably overkill for a stock buggy, but it's going to work great. We're running Gens Ace Redline 2.0 high voltage batteries. Of course, this is a 2S pack, and we're just running 4,200 milliamps. We are running a ProTech fan back behind the motor here to keep things cool. Pretty standard fan a lot of guys are running. And then for the motor, we went with the Exalt Phoenix Silver. We went with the silver instead of the gold just because it sounds like they're coming out with a new motor line pretty soon here. So if that happens, we'll go ahead and we'll get a good motor from them, and then we'll take the silver off and keep that as a backup. We are running the 1UP Racing adjustable battery lockdowns here, and then we got some blue and orange wiring from Dollar Hobbies that just kind of bring everything together. And then speaking of the orange and blue too, of course, a lot of the hardware that comes with the car is Associated blue, so we got a lot of orange hardware also to complement that, like our wheel nuts, their spacers, and then pretty much all of our lock nuts are also in orange flanged and unflanged. So I'm really proud of the aesthetics of this car, especially. I think it looks awesome. And a big shout out to Pete at Dollar Hobbies who helped us get our car all soldered up for us because we just simply didn't have the time. I promise I'll do it myself next time, guys. Don't judge me. So as far as the build itself, everything went really well for the most part. The biggest issue I had that I can remember off the top of my head is because we put the aluminum steering components in right away instead of the stock plastic ones. I don't remember exactly what the issue was that we were having, but it took me 2 or 3 hours to figure out the correct way that it was supposed to come together. But I do find it a necessary enough component to want to put on right away, especially if we know we're going to probably put it on sooner than later anyways. So might as well do it now. But once we got past the steering assembly, everything else after that went pretty smoothly for the most part. I can't really remember any major issues that we had with the build. I'm really happy with the overall build quality and the fit and finish. I mean, there's a reason that Associated is one of the best race kits that you can get out there, and that's a big part of it. Transmission went together super easily. The diff went together super easily. And I should mention as well for the diff, we're not running the plastic 4-way cross pins. We are running the 2 planetary gear setup in that. So we only have 2 planetary gears sandwiched between those ring gears, and we have a metal cross pin to connect them as well. And in the diff, the kit only came with 30K weight oil, but we did put 100K in there because nobody, as far as I can tell, is running that light of an oil. So most guys are running, I think, at least 100K. Some are running 150 even. So the only other major issue that I had with the build isn't related to things not going together well or whatever. It was an issue that is my fault. So I mentioned the carbon arms in the rear. We accidentally got the 81 millimeter rear carbon arms and put those on the car initially. So come to find out, those arms are actually 3 millimeters longer than what the stock rear arm length is. So what was happening because of that is when the rear suspension was at full droop, the dog bones were actually pulling out of the outdrive cups. So I couldn't figure out why that was happening. I was talking to Dustin, kind of going back and forth. We weren't really sure what was going on. So we tried to change a bunch of stuff with the shocks to compensate for that, to reduce the stroke and reduce the droop. But finally the next morning, and this is the morning that we were going to go to the track for the first time to get the car finished and hit a couple practice laps, made the realization that, oh, these carbon arms we got are longer than the standard length. So we ended up putting the stock plastic standard length rear arms back on, and then changed the shocks all back to the kit setup with the longer eyelids, longer droop, longer stroke. Put everything back together, and then it was perfect from there. So we have the rear carbon arms on the way in the standard length. I should have realized that those rear carbon arms that we had were going to be an issue, because there was a little pamphlet in there that said, hey, if you're running these arms, you need all these other parts to make it work. But like a fool, I ignored it because I just simply didn't realize that there were different length arms that you could get. So that was one of the biggest issues that we had with this build, but that is 100% on me. So like I said, the fit, finish, the quality and everything of this build is top notch. I couldn't be happier with how everything came together. I do really love how easy it is to get to the diff. It's just 5 quick screws, lift the cover up, boom, you're good to go. We did have a bearing fall out of one of the bell cranks, which I didn't realize until we had already hit the track. Somebody who's looking at the car said the steering had a lot of play in it, more than normal at least, and upon inspection, yeah, we were missing a bearing, and that's one thing you want to watch out for whenever you're building, honestly, any kit. Sometimes bearings can fall out of certain parts easier than others, so you really want to make sure that bearings are not falling out of any of your components as you're assembling the car. So make sure you double check your work as you go as well. That'll save you some time later on. And in terms of initial driving impressions, it's hard to say if it was the setup sheet or if it's the car or if it's just simply because I'm not familiar with driving on carpet to begin with, but I found the car pretty difficult to drive right away. So I try to compensate for some of that by slowing down the steering a little bit, reducing the dual rate and the exponential rates and all that. And I think a lot of that definitely did help. And I came to the realization by the end of the weekend that overall, I just need more wheel time. That's my biggest thing right now, is I just need to get familiar with the car and comfortable with the car and try to learn it. The only other changes that we made with the car, like I said, we did put heavier weight diff fluid in the rear from 30K to 100K. And then at the recommendation of Scott, who is somebody that I met at Rick's Hobby Farm doing the outdoor stuff, he was across the pit table from us this last weekend at Dollar Hobbies in Woodbury. He recommended going with a stiffer spring in the rear. So we put some yellow springs on here instead of the gray, and I think that helped a little bit. It's hard to say for sure just with not being super comfortable with what was already on there, but I think it did help. At least it didn't hurt anything anyway. We're running the 72-tooth spur gear on here and then a 29-tooth pinion gear. The couple tracks we're going to be running at the most are fairly small, so we don't need a lot of speed. I could probably honestly get away with even a 28-tooth if I wanted to see how that works out. But we do have other pinions in the toolbox in case we do run at a larger track and we can gear down. Overall, the car is very well planted. It does handle really well, even though it is a little bit of a handful to drive, but I got some guys that complimented how well the shocks were working, how well the thing looked like it was handling. It's just, like I said, it's just the driver. So be on the lookout for a full first race weekend vlog with this car here that just took place. I'm really excited to get that video out because I know you guys like the race vlogs. And there's going to be quite a few race vlogs throughout the winter here. Very exciting. I think for next things that I need to figure out with the car, I think there's probably an ESC setting that I need to situate here. It seemed like I wasn't getting an instant punch when I went full throttle from a standstill. And that's something that you'll be able to see when we do our A-main here from this last weekend. I'll make sure I leave links in the descriptions for absolutely everything that I put on this car and even the setup sheet that Dustin sent us. I'll share that with you guys as well. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe to this channel because we have a lot of cool stuff on the way. I have a goal to reach 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we're getting so close to that. Reaching that 1,000 subscribers is going to help me bring more content to you guys, higher quality content. I'm really excited for everything that's about to come. If you have an RC10B7, let me know in the comments below what your experience has been like with it so far. I also want to hear what you think about our build and if you have any questions on it. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate you, and we're going to see you in the next one.